Just a quick shout out to our newest patrons, Chris Surratt and Chris Hitchcock. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon as well, go to dialpodcast.com. Thanks. Enjoy the show.
Shut up and sit down.
Food, glorious food. We're anxious to try it.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. I think I'm still buzzing on Reese's and Red Bulls. I should probably go for a ride. Enjoy episode 112.
It's not that vegetable eaters are bad people. It's just that they're terrible people. Yeah, I want the tofu spring rolls, except I don't eat tofu. So do you have like a tofu flavored chicken you can substitute in for me? That salad's totally grossing me out. I've completely lost my appetite. This sausage is a meat-based vegetable substitute for cucumber. It's got the taste and the texture of an actual cucumber with none of the cucumber.
Hi, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During, and today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance coming at you from my home studio.
Home studio.
Home studio.
Evan Price.
Drinking a San Pellegrino, but the
Whoa,
blood orange.
fancy.
The blood orange flavor. Yes. I figured that we would move overseas for our potential sponsorships after being dropped by LaCroix and Kirkland both recently. We're getting desperate for our sparkling waters here, but I will say the blood orange flavor is very good from San Pellegrino. Really not much of a seltzer water taste. It's more like you're drinking a juice, to be completely honest, but strong taste, yeah.
And to his digital right, Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look digitally to the right. We're all on Skype here, so it's digital.
I'm
digital.
thankful for
I
technology.
can see Matt.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one that can actually see Matt because we are videoing
sharing
each other. Yeah.
All right, do I need to open up my video? There, can you see me now?
Oh yeah,
we can
that's
see
very
Jake.
nice. You can see my glorious mustache, Jake.
There you go. Yep. I could see it the whole time. I just didn't want to tell you guys that I could see it.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's not fair.
Yeah.
We can see Jake looking dapper as usual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody can see me, which is probably a good thing.
We could Skype you in if you want. You want to Skype from across the table, Evan?
We potentially could, but I just don't know how to open up Skype on this. So.
I was saying, though, this technology stuff is pretty cool, and it's neat that we can still do this. But, man, we're ready for you guys all to be here again.
Yeah.
This whole COVID
What do we
thing needs
think?
to be
Maybe
done.
two more podcasts like this, and then we'll be back in studio.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I
I would
think
really like that.
End of the month is probably going to be when they say it's okay. And from what they're saying, we might be on the backside of things here in Washington State. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Things are looking
Hopefully.
good.
Yeah, numbers are looking solid. So, all right, let's get into the show. How have you guys been? Pretty good?
Solid.
It's been stinking weird.
It's been terrible.
So, over the weekend, my wife comes walking into my office when I was working on some pictures that I was processing, and she lops down this bag on my desk. She's like, "This is for you podcast guys." I'm like, "What?" And so, anyway, it's a person who is a listener to the show, Jessica Fitch, and she is a good friend of my wife and running buddy. She brought us this little gift bag, and I have no idea what's in it. Evan, do you want to go through that bag real quick and kind of tell us what's going on here?
Let's see here.
Wow.
This is still
Hold on a
stapled
sec.
shut. So this
Oh.
is.
Yeah,
Wait a
go
minute.
ahead.
Am I gonna rip this bad? Oh no. Here we go.
Tear it open.
Like
What
the
does it
Christmas
say?
edition.
There's like some stationery on the front. What does it say?
It
before we-
says to the Dialed Podcast, just in case you start getting low on content. Pretty sure you could debate this for a while.
So I wanted to open this so bad. I'm like, what's this got to be? So I just open it up. It's a Bath and Body Works bag. Now I don't know if it has anything to do with Bath and Body Works or what, but
He's doing
the
very
stationery
poorly
was
at
kind of cool.
opening
The
this.
stationery had like some sort of like a pirate skull or something on it.
I know. I'm very interested. Oh, hold on. Here we go.
Oh wow.
Oh, there's a LaCroix Coffee Exotico.
Oh, that's mine. Dibs. Dibs.
We're gonna put this out here. Jake and I'll fight over this, and then there's more.
Oh, there's two of them.
I think that's what is in here.
Okay.
Oh, this is gonna be a hot debate. Hold on, I think there may be different flavors, or this is all gonna be no. This is all gonna be the same flavor.
All the same flavor.
A can of LaCroix coffee.
A LaCroix coffee.
Don't worry, Matt and Lance. We'll take care of yours.
Flavored?
Essence of Sumatra coffee and cola, naturally essenced sparkling water. Coffee Exotica.
Is this LaCroix asking to continue to be our sponsor?
I don't know. Does it have caffeine in it, though?
I think so. That's a good question. Hold on, let's see.
Idea.
Water, naturally essential. Where's the caffeine on this?
There's no caffeine.
I'm not even sure. This may just be coffee taste.
Oh.
Thumbs up.
See,
me.
but I bet if you didn't tell me, I would probably just believe that it's coffee.
Although I could probably use a little less caffeine. I don't know what it is, but I've been drinking so much freaking coffee, it's not even funny.
I think
this is awesome. Thanks, Jess. Thank
you so much.
Cool.
I'm going to crack this open and give this a sip right now. Matt, Lance, are you ready for this?
We're ready.
Okay. Ooh,
Nice.
that was good.
That was, yeah. What do you think?
Ooh, that's good. You can taste the coffee right off. The coffee kind of smacks you in the face, and then it tastes like a bubbly water right after that. That's a good flavor. Oh, that's good.
Tasty good?
I like it. It's also got a little brown tab, too, so it you know, has that coffee feel to it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, Lance, you would probably not want this. I bet you don't even like the taste of coffee.
I don't really. I would probably pass on it, but thank you so much for thinking of us. That is kind.
I don't know. I still think you need to drink one of these.
Don't worry, Jake and I will take care of them.
I'll bring one over to you, Matt. I'll save it and bring it by. I think I need to swing by your house anyway. I've got a micro SD card to give you. So.
Oh, I'm not worried about that.
That's exhilarating show talk. All right. So thank you again, Jess. One other bit of business. Our Patreon account has grown since last week, you guys.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome.
We've got 2 new Patreons, and I wanted to say a big thank you to, who was it? Chris? Yep, Chris. And let me pull it up here real quick. Chris Hitchcock. All right.
Oh, Chris Hitchcock.
And Chris
I love
Surratt.
that guy.
So the Chris's, Chris Surratt and Chris Hitchcock, both became Patreons, and I just wanted to give them a big thank you. So that's really going to help out the show, and we're kind of in the stratosphere now where we can start taking some of these funds and putting it towards maybe some advertising of the show to kind of push this out there to more people, which was kind of the goal, and that'll help us raise more awareness of what we're doing and help us with all the other little things that we're trying to do with this podcast. So big kudos and a big thank you to you guys.
Thank you to the Chris's. That's awesome.
Thank you, Chris's.
All right. Is Champ Bailey here? Anybody see Champ Bailey?
Do you want to backpedal before we do that?
No, I just want to get Champ Bailey out of the way real quick.
Oh. Champ Bailey, not here, apparently.
Not here. Okay. We're just going to skip Champ Bailey this week because there's no news.
There's really no real news. I looked through stuff to see if there was something to talk about, and there's not.
All right, moving on. Let's go.
Whoa.
Wait.
1 second.
Oh, come on.
1 second. I have something
I
that
want
is
to hear about
not.
some treadmill record.
It's actually not a Zwift thing today, but I will continue to report on Zwift because I know that's been the thing our listeners are most looking
Are
forward
you
to.
about to mention the Mount Lemon?
Yes. See, this is why me and Matt are always on the same page here. We need to fire Champ Bailey and get new sports people in here. Okay. So right now at the top of the Mount Lemon KOM list, the one that Phil Guyman has touted is the king KOM of that climb. Mount Lemon being a climb out in Arizona for anybody who doesn't know. Tucson, Arizona. There are 2 triathletes who sit at the top of that right now. 2 triathletes. That is Sam Long, who just recently took the KOM from Lionel Sanders. Now, this literally made an article in multiple news sources in the endurance world. That's how little news there is right now, is that we are reporting on KOMs.
Strava
KOMs are now the news.
Yeah. Was that on ESPN?
What else do we have to go for right now? That's about all we have to go for right now is Strava stuff.
And at least, Lance, this one's outside. So at least it is. I will say, Sam Long's power profile from this was pretty incredible. I could be getting this wrong, but on the hour and 15-minute climb for him, I believe correct me if I'm wrong here, he was almost at 410 for his normalized power.
Yeah, it was something like that, 410, 420, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, which is very, very, very impressive.
Pedestrian.
The guy, he's got a, and I will completely admit on here, I think, Matt, I may even told you this, I thought he was a complete pretender going into that. I thought there was no way that he was going to beat Lionel.
I was going to ask you what you thought about all of this, because remember, I think we mentioned on the podcast last week where you were like, hey, he's having someone pace him for halfway up and all this stuff. And people were furious online about it.
Oh, people on Slow Twitch were giving him so much flack. And I'll tell you what, fully admit, anybody who gave him flack was 100% wrong, because that guy just put out an incredible performance. That's unreal.
Exhilarating.
Well, and he's not a climber. He's not built like a. He's a big guy.
He calls himself the big unit.
He does. Yeah.
Wait, is he? Because he's a tall guy, right?
He's like He used to be a football player. He's a pretty big guy. He's like I could be wrong here. He's like 180 pounds.
It wasn't football. He played. Maybe he did play football.
He
maybe
did.
You're right.
He did for a bit. Something. Yeah. He's a big guy.
Awesome. Anything else?
I don't know. I always question someone that's giving themselves nicknames like the big unit, but
I'm sure he's slightly obnoxious. But you know what? He can put out a lot of power on a bike.
he can definitely ride the bike. So
So I'm sure once this is all done, Phil Guyman and co will be given that climb a shot here.
Tune in.
Yep.
Tune in.
This is what we have to look forward to now, folks. Strava KOMs.
So there was a reason why I threw the lead out news first. The listener who gave us the exotic coffee from LaCroix, evidently our lead out news generally puts her to sleep, kind of bores her a little bit. She will tune out from time to time. So I wanted to get it out of the way just for her because I knew she was going to listen to this.
See, this is why we got to fire Champ and hire people who talk about online racing.
No, that'll put more people to sleep, Evan.
Well, but before the podcast, before we start filming, I suggest I want people's feedback on this. Tell me if you would all fall asleep listening to this. I would like to pick a race each weekend where we talk about it in history, like a great year that it had. If nobody wants to hear that, just post and say
put you on the timer for
not.
30 seconds. Sure, let's do
30 seconds. We could do a
30-second recap.
I can hear people hitting the skip 30-second button.
Exactly.
Skip 30-second button.
Exactly.
See, but if I say it fast enough, you can't get to the skip in time. If I make it in 10 seconds, you will not find the skip 30 seconds in time.
Awesome. All right, let's do some backpedaling, you guys. Evan, you've been rambling on. Backpedal for us.
This whole podcast is going to be me talking to myself. I rode inside and ran inside a decent amount, but I did swim open water once, and I'm going to tomorrow again. Matt.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
So it was like perfect temperature. Vancouver Lake
this morning?
No, it was Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
Vancouver Lake is perfectly fine if you're wearing a long sleeve wetsuit. I double capped, and I probably could have been single capped just fine. Yeah, awesome. It's I stayed shallow water just because I assumed that the deeper water out towards the middle of the lake was going to be pretty cold. So I just stayed kind of around where the boats where the poles are. Yep. But yeah, beach was not too crowded. It was easy to stay away from people, and Cassie and I just jumped in the water, got her swimming, and left. So
you haven't seen any signage about the water being
blooms or
bad
anything? No, I didn't see that. And there were a few other swimmers out there too, and people have been swimming at Vancouver Lake through the week.
I thought I saw a news thing about there being an algae bloom in Vancouver Lake.
I thought I saw a couple other places. I wasn't sure if it was Vancouver Lake, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Double check and make sure you're not swimming through, poison.
An algae bloom.
Yeah, I was just going to swim over it if I hit it, or swim under it, one or the other.
I don't know if it works like that.
I'm completely joking. You cannot swim over or under an algae bloom.
Just build up your immune system, bud.
There you go. Yeah. I just need to test that.
Anything else?
Yeah. No, nobody wants to hear about Zwift, and that's basically all it has been.
Well, we want to know how you did on your race on Friday.
Oh yes,
yeah, that's right. You did a race that you tried to get us to do that none of us joined you
Exactly.
on.
Nobody wanted to do that. It was the Zwift Classics race. What's the Box Hill course? Is that London?
Yeah.
London. Yeah. So Box Hill is about a 7 minute climb, I think. Yeah. And they did a loop. It doesn't end on Box Hill, but Box Hill is very close to the end of that race. It was like a 20-30 minute race. I did the A race again, and once again, the front group went. There was about 4 guys that went out. I latched onto them and then tried to drop them because that's smart. Rule number 1 is Zwift racing. If you're in the lead group, you're probably not going to be able to drop them if there's about 10K left. Those guys are going to put out well over 5 watts per kilo to keep you in sight. And I got away for a second. They caught me, and then 3 or 4 guys dropped me. I got caught by the chase pack, and we went in together and got out sprinted at the end. I think I was 8th place or something like that.
That's not too bad.
No.
Yeah.
FTP is going up slowly but surely for the races that none of us are going to be doing. So
Jesse Tonkinson was supposed to race with you.
He was.
So instead,
he went on a beautiful ride outside.
He did. He went on a very beautiful ride. Did a little larch effort. He was doing an FTP test. And I had talked to him prior to that, and he said he was going to possibly think about chasing the KOM on that, held by Mike Guyvan, who broke that last year. And that KOM had stuck for like 5 or 6, a lot of years. So did he tell you what happened to him?
He did. I'm going to preface this by saying, having ridden with Tonk so much in the last few months and on Zwift riding with him a lot, Tonk has that KOM in my head. Like if Tonk gets on the right day, he absolutely has that KOM in him.
He almost could have had it.
He could have. He definitely.
He just didn't realize that the segment ended where it ended, and he soft pedaled.
He thought he was off pace.
He thought he was off pace. He thought that the segment was only 22 minutes, but it was actually like 25 minutes. And like he went a little bit beyond that, if I'm not mistaken, and then soft pedaled the last like minute or two and missed the KOM by seconds.
Yeah. He would have had it. He would have had the large KOM. Yeah.
Yeah. So the poor guy.
I know. Mike's KOM lives another day, which is an incredibly respectable effort. Mike's effort up at that day was incredible, but
he's in pretty good shape right now too. So I could see this being a little bit of a battle, and I put it out there to Jesse
back and forth. Yeah,
that we need to actually start doing some capturing some video and kind of making a saga out of this.
I think we do.
Making little vignettes about their efforts going up this, because it's a tough climb. It's a beautiful area, great athletes, and it's a coveted KOM. So
we've got. I think I've roped Tonk into. I'm putting this out there just to pressure him for this weekend. I have some pro triathlon friends who want to do a effort up Alpe de Zwift on Saturday morning before everybody goes and rides outside. So I think I've roped Tonk into doing that, and then that day we both want to go out and do Larch again at separate times. So
interesting.
We'll see who's got the legs when they're tired. My money's on Tonk because he's climbing out of his mind right now. So
yeah, his FTP's pretty solid.
He's
like 145, 150
pounds.
He's
not heavy.
No.
He is not. He's a few pounds lighter than I am.
Since we're reporting on Tonk, just everyone should keep in mind that he also was the winner of the exercising during quarantine photo competition.
He was.
That was an epic little vignette, video for him.
This is not necessarily a back pedal anymore. This is a Tonkin back pedal.
Yeah.
Getting tonky with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was fun. If you want to know what Matt's referring to, go to Matt's YouTube channel. He did a COVID workout exercise picture contest, and Tonk ended up winning it, but he didn't submit a picture. He submitted a video.
Yes,
but it was like a slow-mo video of him like drinking water and shooting it all over himself and trying to be like, I don't know. It's
great.
Worth watching.
And then he just takes the water bottle and just like chucks it over his shoulder so nonchalantly. It's good. Good video.
Worth watching for sure. So cool beans. Lance, backpedal for us.
Let's see. We have had beautiful weather here in the Pacific Northwest this week, and so and our outdoor riding hasn't been shut down here where we're at. So I was able to ride actually quite a bit. It was all either alone or with my wife, and so we were able to ride quite a bit.
There was less time in Lance's week that he was not riding than when he was riding. You rode outside like 20-something hours last week.
It was almost 24 hours I rode last week, like 410 miles. It's actually the biggest week I've had in the last year plus.
Since last training camp in 2019?
Yes, because I didn't make it all the way through training camp this year.
Yep.
So yeah, I just had a fantastic week. I rode every day. Obviously, there were a couple days I rode twice because what else am I going to do? So it was just nice. My wife actually went for a 50-mile ride with me. She went out and did a whole 50-mile ride.
Yeah, Brandy.
Yeah, way to go, Brandy. And so we had a great time. The highlight for me this week is I finally got my road bike back up and running. So for those that are new, I crashed pretty bad in February and actually cracked the frame on my BMC team machine. And so I had to get a new frame and fork. And I've just been slowly moving all the components from my broken frame to the new frame. And there was one piece that just took a while to get in. We finally got it in and put it all together. And so the last 3 days I've been riding on my road bike, because all my rides before that I was doing on my gravel bike with big 40 mil tires. And it just felt so good to be on a speedy, fast road bike. So, matter of fact, the last 3 days, every time I've ridden that bike so far, I've gotten a KOM on a segment.
Ruh-roh.
So, but then again, what else do I have to do? So I've just been kind of chasing segments here and there.
You going after Lake Road there, Lance?
If the wind is right.
That is. If you take that thing by 30 seconds, I'm for sure going to flag you.
And the hips feeling solid?
Yeah, believe it or not, my hip actually is feeling pretty good. I can get out of the saddle and I can push 1,000 watts, and so it's actually feeling pretty good. It's still when I've had a hard effort on the bike, I still limp a little bit when I walk, but that is kind of slowly going away. So I'm recovering from my accident much better and much quicker than I thought I would. So that's all a very good thing. I've also been doing yoga for a couple of days because my daughters have come home.
Good.
I have a 23-year-old daughter and a 19. She's almost 20. Almost 20-year-old daughter.
How old is she again?
And so they're home for a couple weeks because they're doing all online school, and they do yoga every morning. So they drag me out onto the pool deck every morning, and we've been doing yoga. So go figure.
We've been doing yoga over at our house also.
Ah.
I think it's the thing to do during quarantine. I mean, there's so many like free apps and free YouTube videos and free everything else that there's a lot of little in-home workouts that there's an abundance of things to do online at this point. So
yes,
cool.
Yeah.
What was the most coveted KOM you took down in this past week?
That's a good question. I don't.
We'll let you come back to that, or no?
Well, there's one KOM that is a street in front of my house.
Yeah.
That heads from the corner where my house is to the 205 bridge. And, it's been done by thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I took that KOM this week.
What's it called?
The one by your house?
It's called Take It to the Bridge. Yeah, it's it's right in front of my house. Yeah. It's a short one. It's only like a
I think I saw that pop up yesterday when I was riding through there. I wasn't looking at that particular one, but it did pop up on the segment thing on my Garmin. Isn't there another one through there called like Geez Louise or no? That's a different segment that I went through yesterday.
That's down on Old Evergreen Highway.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
yeah, I know the Geez Louise one you're talking about too. Yeah, every time that pops up, I crack up.
Yeah, 4,000 attempts. 4,000 people have done this segment, and I took the KOM on that, so I was pretty happy about that.
Sweet, good job, Lance.
Yeah,
making us all proud.
There you go.
Strava talk,
conquering the Strava world, Lance Appler.
It's been funny, I've been trying. Once I was able to get back on my bike, I've been trying to stick to my training plan a little bit so that I could kind of get back into shape. But halfway through this week, I kind of went, why am I training so hard right now?
Lance, you cannot interrupt.
To feel good.
You cannot interrupt your 465-day training plan, Lance. How are you ever going to peak for cross nationals in 2028?
It just made me realize that maybe I just need to back off on the intensity a little bit and just have some fun on the bike while we're in the midst of this. And maybe the fun thing to do for me right now is just to try to go for different Strava segments. So I might back off on some of my interval work and just I don't know. I'll probably change my mind next week. So just forget about it. Just
That's funny.
But that's it.
Matt, how's your week been?
I've been stuck at home, stuck in quarantine. I went outside a couple of times. I rode Prune Hill stuff, which is just like classic, Jake and I lunch ride type ride where we just go find stuff to climb. And I've been hopping on the rollers a little bit. Rode with my kids a couple times. Yeah, nothing big. I've been trying to run, but I've been having a lot of Achilles issues, so I need to hit Evan up for how best to tackle that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there is anything other than time off for like any sort of bursa issues on the back of your heel, Evan.
There's definitely some stuff that we can do. I would guess it's a little bit more than a bursal issue too, just from the talks that we've done. I think that's part of it, but I think we're talking about a long history here with
there might be some history there.
Yeah. There's a couple of years involved there.
Yeah. I think that the bursa stuff is just the latest in the
latest and greatest for it. Yeah.
Latest, greatest. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's keeping me back from running. I've kind of been going out and doing like a half mile at a time, just like in my neighborhood, just to do something, and it's kind of something that I can do while I'm at least kind of watching the kids, like kind of stay close to home. And like, if they're out front, I can kind of shoot down the street and back. So exercising has not been great. But the other weird thing, yes, yoga, of course, that's always an option. But, I borrowed a Vasa trainer from the gym from Lackamas Swim and Sport. Vasa trainers are these weird like machines where you use your hands to kind of you're pushing down on the Vasa trainer, and it's kind of all this rope stuff. So you're using like body weight to kind of simulate some swimming, at least the same swim muscles. And I did it for like an hour. I don't remember which day it was. It was like Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember what. And I could not move my arms the next day. So
hour's definitely aggressive there, Matt. When we got ours in the clinic, I think Cassie and I did it 20 minutes.
I was like watching a show, and I didn't want to stop watching the show. So I was like, all right, let's just keep doing this. And I just knew like right away, like this is so dumb. I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. And sure enough, it took me like 2 days before I could get back on the Vasa trainer because I just could not move my arms at all. But it's something to do, and I think all of us are looking for something to do that, if your Achilles is bugging you, then at least I have that Vasa trainer to do something. So that and the weather has been awesome. So a lot of time with kids outdoors. It's been good.
Good. Yeah, the weather has been absolutely. That's been the one bright spot here. Is at least the weather's good.
This week it's been solid.
Can't complain about that.
I think there's going to be another solid week here coming up too. As I say that, it's probably going to change to all rain tomorrow, but
yeah, they're going to
look solid.
Awesome. They're going to lift all the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, it's going to be thunderstorms for 2 weeks.
Yeah, crappy weather. My week wasn't too far off all of you guys. Just Zwifting, and my shoulder still sucks. I actually ended up getting a phone call from my orthopedic last week after they canceled my appointment, and we ended up doing a telehealth, and he informed me that I am going to be having more surgery. To start with, we're going to be doing the joint capsule release stuff, and not sure when that's going to happen. We have to wait for all this COVID stuff to go away, and that we can schedule from there. But he is also having some concerns, and I'm going in for an MRI this afternoon.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good that you're actually able to get scheduled. I thought the MRI was going to have to be a month from now, in which case then everything gets pushed back into the summer, which would be annoying.
Right.
Yeah. So he thought it was best that we get that done now, and then I will be following up with him with another telehealth video call this coming Friday to kind of find out what the extent of everything that's going on in there is. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right, and I'm kind of it's like a double-edged sword. I'm excited to find out what's going on because I need to get to the bottom of this because it's been killing me for almost 2 years, figuratively and literally. But on the flip side, I'm really not looking forward to have surgery. He said to me it's not going to be anything like it was when I had it all like repaired and rebuilt and all that fun stuff. But he said it's still going to kind of suck. He's like, if it's just that, you're going to jump right back into physical therapy. And it'll.
Did he give you an idea as to what surgery he's leaning towards right now?
He didn't want to speculate. He wants to get the MRI first because it's, I wasn't there with him, and he wasn't able to like get his hands on me and like take me through ranges of motion. I'm sure he's got some suspicions, but we'll find out. That's why we do this MRI stuff. So
we're gonna take a look. Yeah,
but got outside and did a little ride yesterday, which was kind of nice. It was the Covito Bandito.
I saw that. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Like people like looking at me kind of strange, but just pulling up that neck gaiter over the face with your glasses and your helmet.
It's 72 degrees outside. Yeah,
like it's like if you'd walked into like a convenience store wearing that get up, like just a few months ago, they would be calling the cops on you. Now it's like commonplace, like
especially rolling in with a bike too. Yeah, when it's that hot outside.
But the highlight of my week was jumping on the mountain bike with my son. We went for a little hour-and-a-half mountain bike ride back in Lake Lackamas Park area, and that was a blast. He's
really liking the mountain bike lately.
He loves it, yeah. And my God, he's getting so proficient on the bike. His bike handling skills have gone through the roof. He's like a completely different kid just in the last 12 months. So
they grow.
Props to Barrett on that. He's doing an awesome job. I do need to trim his bars. He's got some, I think they're like 740s or something like that. It's whatever they come stock with. And like he looks like he's riding like one of those old school choppers where your hands are like way out. I mean, his hands are so far spread apart. So I need to trim those things up and get them closer to like 710, 715, 20 range, somewhere in there. But other than that, he's killing it and had a good time. And I wasn't hammering because he's riding with a 10-year-old son. But he was going at a decent pace, and we were kind of going over roots and rocks. My God, the next morning I woke up, I swear I thought my arm was going to fall off. So,
good job, Barrett. Jeez, you're hurting your dad out there.
Wrecked
You're dropping him too hard. Yeah.
So that was my week. How about we start our topic?
I like it.
Yeah? Let's do it.
Right. This was actually a request by a listener who asked if we could kind of cover this. He's like, I know you guys talked about this a long time ago. He thought that it would be good for us to revisit it and wanted us to get into a little bit more depth. And it's stuff that I wouldn't say he's struggling with right now. He's just trying to wrap his head around with, and he thought that having us talk about it a little bit more could help him. So, and it's probably something that we can all start thinking about too, because, fingers crossed this whole COVID thing will lift in the next, few weeks to a month. And if we can start addressing some of these things now, that maybe they'll pay dividends once we can get out there and maybe do a bike race or something.
Seriously.
Our topic, addressing weight loss, performance, recovery, and general health through diet, all specific to cycling. That's a big topic.
That's a very big topic. That's an important topic.
There's a lot of depth to that, and there's a lot of tangenting I'm sure that we can get into, and I'm sure that we didn't go get together beforehand and come up with like a structured plan for this. So it's going to be very organic with what we have to say here. And this might even be something that we want to make a multi-part series depending upon how this goes today. But I'm really curious to know kind of where you guys are leaning. I want to start with Lance because he's probably made the biggest change over the last 6 to 8 months. Does that sound about right, Lance?
Yeah, it's been a little bit longer than that, but yeah. Starting last August, September.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you let everybody know kind of what you did, what kind of got you thinking about going the direction that you did, and how it's affected you over that time span?
Well, to start this off, probably like a lot of adults, I have struggled with my weight most of my adult life. It's always been a battle for me. It has not been easy for me to stay thin. And like right now, I'm about 175 pounds. I'm 5'10", and I'm about 175 pounds, and that's close to about as thin as I can get without really focusing down. A few years ago, I was almost 240. So I throughout my adult life, I have like cycled up and down. I've lost weight and gained it back, and lost weight and gained it back. It's the classic, issue that adult or crash dieters go through where they're trying to make things happen. So,
a lot of that for you was just like your lifestyle and your work schedule and all that other stuff, and like the cycling and the diet stuff kind of gets tossed out in the window in favor of running a successful business. So,
yes,
now you get to focus on all things cycling, and here you are.
So during last summer, as I was going through the race season, I probably did most of the race season at about 185, actually, a little bit heavier. And obviously at that weight, I had a very difficult time just sticking with the group, especially on any climb. And I'd been watching a lot of other cyclists and things and trying to figure out what I wanted to do to kind of change it. And I personally decided to try veganism. So I went vegan last August or September. So completely cold turkey, went completely plant-based overnight.
You kept that on the DL for a long time too. You didn't tell anybody.
What's that?
You went on the DL for a long time. You didn't like tell anybody that you were doing that, probably other than your wife.
I didn't really talk about it, mostly because a lot of vegans tend to be very
verbose
about being vegan.
Yes.
You know, they tend to be very kind of in your face about it. And there's two types of people that turn to be vegan: those that are protecting the animals and those that are doing it for health reasons. And of course I love animals and I'm an animal lover, but I didn't do it for that reason. I did it for the health reasons, that I thought it would be a healthier way to go. And there are several cyclists that I follow that were already vegan. And my worry was, you know, the biggest question with veganism. And for those that don't know, veganism, being vegan is obviously it's a vegetarian diet, but you also don't eat any animal products. So no dairy, that's the biggest thing is
dairy,
no
yeah.
dairy.
Yeah.
So no cheese, no milk, no yogurt, no any of that stuff.
No eggs
so I
either,
don't,
so
butter.
no eggs.
No butter,
yeah. No butter, no eggs, no dairy, no eggs, any of that stuff. And I first started thinking, oh, am I going to be able to do this? Because I was a steak a day kind of guy. I loved red meat. I've talked about it on this podcast before, how much I love red meat.
Yeah. And
it's probably the worst thing for us to really be eating as far as endurance athletes. And, you know, I really idolized a couple of people cyclists that I was following. One being a local hero here, Molly Cameron. He has been vegan. She has been vegan for a number of years and she's a very strong cyclist, somebody I cannot hang with. She's about 10 years younger than me, or 8 years younger than me. But I thought, okay, if that person can do it, then so can I. Also, the Vegan Cyclist is a very popular YouTuber. His real name is Tyler Pierce, and he doesn't seem to have any trouble with endurance or strength or power or speed. And he's been vegan for a long time too. And so I thought, okay, if these people can do it, I should try this and kind of see how it works. And for me, oh my goodness, I actually immediately started to feel better. My body responded very well to it. Some people's bodies don't. For me, my body responded really well to it. My sleep improved, my endurance went up, my strength went up, all of that eating a strictly vegan diet, which really quite surprised me. And so that became very motivating for me to stick with it. And so here we are, 8 or 9 months later, and I am sticking with it. I don't have a reason to go off it. After the first 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't miss any of the meat or animal proteins that I was eating before. And so I've just kind of decided to stick with it, and it's made a difference for me. I did lose some weight for sure. It dropped me down to about 175 where I'm at right now. And it made a big difference.
You've dipped lower than 175, if I'm not mistaken. Like going into training camp, weren't you in like the upper 160s?
Yeah, I thought you were even under 170 for training camp.
Yeah.
Actually, gearing up for training camp, I started eating very clean. My vice right now is sugar. Oh my gosh, I love jelly beans and gummy bears and I love that stuff.
Just Easter in general.
How many Reese's peanut butter eggs did you eat yesterday, Lance?
I ate way too many, and I should admit that because there's milk chocolate in that.
No.
In that kind of, yeah. But anyway, so you could. There are some things I'm whatever. So leading up to training camp, I was really trying. I ate really cleanly. I didn't eat any sugar. I was really careful about what I ate. And I actually, during training camp, I was under 160. Got down to about 159 or 158.
Lance, that is lean, man.
Yeah, it's really lean. And now because I'm eating sugar and things, 175 is about where I sit. So that's kind of how much I can fluctuate back and forth just from saying things. But I didn't even that lean, and I don't really have a reason to be under 160 or close to 160 right now, because we're just playing bikes right now. We're not racing, and so
exactly. And there's also, I'm not sure if you've looked into this much, Lance, but there's something called the set point theory, which does talk about it's the reason for people's fluctuations in weight is because your body actually responds hormonally when you get out of certain ranges. Our body's first response is protective whenever we go catabolic in any capacity. So we always remember our leanest weight, I think, but people need to understand that generally your weight is going to fluctuate a pretty wide range. Some people's will fluctuate more. More muscle-bound people are going to have higher fluctuations in weight just because of muscle glycogen storage, and that's contribution to weight too. But, Lance being a stronger athlete, and, Lance's background, I'm not sure if you're a newer listener to the podcast, you may not know Lance was a decathlete back in the day, and if you've ever met a decathlete before, they're pretty they're like if you took a cross-country runner and strapped a bodybuilder's physique onto them, basically. But that could be contributing to your weight fluctuations.
The cyclist upper body. I don't
no,
have
you definitely
upper body of a cyclist.
Your shoulder width is not exactly your typical climber shoulder width. So
no.
Very cool. Just real quick too, I remember when you told me that you had gone vegan. It was about that time that you were watching, or you'd watched a video or a documentary rather prior to that. Was that Game Changers? The Game Changers? Was that the one that you watched that kind of helped make you that?
So it was kind of a brand new documentary that was put out last year on Netflix. It's called The Game Changers, and it was put on by an MMA athlete. Actually, James Cameron was one of the producers. They had some pretty high-powered people helping make that, and it was mostly about elite athletes who were plant-based. And so, of course, that was very intriguing to me, and certainly some of the information in Game Changers. And if you're curious about being plant-based or veganism, that would be an interesting documentary to watch on Netflix. And there's definitely some interesting stuff on that. There's definitely some stuff that has been skewed by science, but it holds up pretty well. So I take all that information kind of with a grain of salt. But I had already quietly gone vegetarian for about a month before I had watched that documentary, and me and my wife watched that together, and we both looked at each other and said, "Do you want to try this?" And we're like, "Yeah. What do we have to lose?
Yeah,
Let's
why not
try this and see how it goes." And that was in September, and here we are, and we still haven't gone back.
I think it's nice that your wife is on board. I think that makes a huge difference, because you guys can do all the meals and kind of cook together.
I would have a very, very difficult time doing this if I was the only person in my household that was doing this. But because my wife decided to do it with me, it's made it
smooth,
pleasant.
Yeah.
This, so that's kind of Lance's perspective, and that's kind of where he's at to date. And I'm sure it's going to be an ongoing saga for him. And who knows where he'll be a year, 2 years, or 5 years from now. He may very well stay the course, or something might change. And I'm sure that as science comes out with more conclusions based on how it can affect performance and health and all that other stuff, he might make some tweaks and changes. But I kind of see him sticking with that. Matt, you've been a pretty high-level athlete for the better part of your life. You've done a lot of crazy stuff in the triathlon world. What kind and you have some other things that you try and keep tabs on with respect to your general health. What kind of a diet do you typically subscribe to, and what is generally most successful for you?
So I have lots of theories on diet for sure that don't subscribe to any sort of science. But
YouTube
I
science.
think a lot of it for me is genetic. And Lance, you probably fall into this too, where it's just like genetically you were gifted this trait to potentially gain weight and things like that. I have very high cholesterol, and it's 100% genetic. I mean, it's obvious. Like my brothers have all the same numbers that I do, and my dad has the same numbers. And so something along the lines of 12 years ago, it might have been more than that now, I quit eating red meat. I didn't find it that difficult to quit eating red meat. I still ate chicken. I still ate dairy. And the cholesterol numbers came down a little bit, and then they came down a lot more when I started like really training for an Ironman. But they're still really high. My numbers are still really high. I probably should be on some sort of medication, but it's not something that I want to do. And then more recently, I've found out that a lot of my other numbers are not good as far as like blood pressure and blood glucose levels. And so definitely concerned about some of those things. About 2 weeks ago, I haven't told any of you guys on this podcast, but since we're talking about diet, I also switched over to completely non-animal product diet. So a lot of vegetables, no dairy, all of those switched 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So basically same game plan as Lance. Nothing like, I feel like there's no like strict, this is okay and this is not, but just trying to go non-animal product. So that's cheese, that's butter, that's all the things, that I would surprise you. You kind of surprise yourself. You're like, oh, okay, I would normally finish off the kids' cereal. I would normally do all these little things. And so now I'm taking a mason jar and I'm taking the kids' milk that they forget to eat or they overpour, and I'm pouring it in the mason jar. And so I'm saving this milk for them to use later because I'm so cheap. Normally I'd be like, screw it, I've got to finish this milk. I can't let it go to waste or can't pour it down the drain. I've got a problem. But now that I'm not drinking milk, and other little things too, like cutting creamer out of the coffee. I think it makes a difference. I definitely noticed basically right away feeling a little bit better. I don't think that this is going to like 100% change my numbers. I still may need to do some other medication type stuff. But it's just another thing that I've tried to improve. On a performance basis, I can't really say one way or another as to if it's helped my performance because, we're in quarantine. We're not doing anything of high performance. I don't feel like I can go longer on the trainer, but I don't think that has anything to do with the diet. I think it has to do with the fact that I'm just out of shape. I just made the change strictly for health reasons, not for performance reasons. My gut feeling is that as we get older, and I'm talking to 3 out of the 4 people on the podcast here, as we move into our 40s, 50s, that probably we don't need the same like high caloric density that we needed when we were younger and we had more energy output. I'm guessing that our just standard metabolism is slowing at our advanced age. And so I think making a move to, foods that are lower in caloric density makes a lot of sense. If I was a professional triathlete and I was on this podcast and I don't really know how old Evan is, 28, I don't know, 30? How old
30.
are you, Evan?
Just say 30. We're just going with 30 for a while here.
I think he's 28 or
yeah,
27.
I was going to say 28, 29, somewhere in there. If I was that age, I probably, especially being a professional triathlete and doing the amount of volume that he does, I probably wouldn't look at a vegan diet. I just think that there's probably some real benefit to taking in some good proteins and things like that you can get from animal product. So that's my kind of take on it. Other things that I know almost all of us do would be kind of a time restricted diet where a lot of us at least take the morning off of eating. A lot for the old adage of like, hey, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. There's no science to that. It's actually comical that people think that this is this most important meal of the day or whatever it is. I think lunch could be the most important in the day if it's kind of your first meal and you want to kind of put in calories at a certain point. I also have a theory that when you have your time restricted diet might matter. Ideally, if you have smaller dinners or a very light dinner, I tend to lose weight basically throughout the night, right? Because that's your period where we're not eating. And if you kind of go into that, a little bit hungry, that's when I tend to lose weight, which I think is good. So.
Yeah, it's I've actually thought about this a lot too, because we had our exchange student, our international student who was with us, and talking with her, the Spanish way of doing things is they don't have a big dinner. They have more like our tapas, or just like small appetizers.
Yep.
Their big meal of the day is lunch, so that their lunch is our dinner, and they eat less as the day goes on. And if you look at their population of people as a whole, I mean, they're relatively thin, and I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of food that they're taking in, and when
a
they're
lot
taking
of good
in.
cyclists from that country, that's for sure. A lot of good cyclists.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Matt. I think we need to preach.
And I think, Matt, you kind of nailed on the head there too. That the point that I like to make with diet is diet is something that really, I think, I mean, just social media will show you this. People get really passionate about and argue about quite a bit. But I think the truly ironic thing with diet is it's so culturally based and adaptation based. If you wanted to make breakfast your most important meal of the day, you could. If you also wanted to not make it the most important meal of the day, your body would adapt to that. And I think it's all just about consistency and finding what your body genetically and just in your life can adapt and become strong with. And that's a different answer for everybody, which is why I think people get so angry about it, is because when we feel like we've found the answer that's correct for us, we believe that is the correct answer for everybody, and that's just not the case at all. So
how about you, Evan? You are a strapping young man. Professional triathlete.
I'm sure I have the worst diet on this podcast by far. Like, it's probably not even close.
But when you're 40, you can change your diet. I mean, all of us probably had horrible diets when we were in our 20s.
And I've tried. And I'll preface that I always joke with people. I eat well 75% of the time, and 25% of the time I eat terribly. But
75% of the time I eat wonderful all the time.
Yeah, exactly. 75% of the time, 100% of the time. But I did try when I was younger. I think I was 23. I want to say I tried to go vegan for I think it was about 6 months. It was straight through a race season. And I went cold turkey, kind of like you did, Lance. And I have a lot of respect for people who are able to do that. My mom has not had my mom generally is not a red meat eater. I think she's kind of pescatarian. And I want to say she actually may have just recently gone vegan. I could be wrong there. But I tried it for 6 months. I lost a massive amount of weight at that time. Got down to pretty close what I am now, but not nearly as strong, and just did it incorrectly. I would say there's, great elite athletes. I think Jan Frodeno, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Jan Frodeno for the last 2-3 years has been vegan, and that's the Ironman world champion.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. I know he's at least, and I know Lionel Sanders
vegetarian.
Tried to do it.
Lionel Sanders, I think, had a similar experience that I had. I actually ended up with a stress fracture. I just lost a ton of weight, increased my run volume a lot. I think, and this is just a theory of mine too, I think it's easier to be vegan as a cyclist than it is as a triathlete. And the reason being is that the calorie expenditure and just the pounding on the body is so much more significant as a triathlete than as a cyclist, that I think as a cyclist you can get in those calorie needs and the protein that you need a little bit easier than the pounding that running requires and the bone growth that's required as a runner. But there are great runners out there, and there are ultra marathon runners that I know that are vegan as well. Yeah. So,
according to the Google machine, Jan Frodeno, Patrick Lange, Hillary Biscay, Laura Phillips, Christy Wellington were all vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah, and I've read Chrissy's book too, and Chrissy's one of the greatest triathletes ever, man or female. She's absolutely incredible. Great book too. I forgot the name. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. I just forgot the name of her book, but it's her autobiography. But yeah, I mean, if you look at any sport, I'm sure Lance, you've looked at this too. There are UFC fighters that are vegan.
Yeah.
It's not as much muscle growth to me. I eat a lot of red meat. So just to give an idea, I have a pretty consistent weekly schedule now. On Friday, I will eat a DiGiorno's pizza and basically an entire bag of chips. Saturday, Cassie and I will wake up and I have almost the same breakfast on big training days. I have like 3 or 4 pieces of bread with jelly, about 6 eggs, and a cup of coffee. So my and then Saturday I will eat quite a bit of red meat. I'll have basically just 2 massive burgers and a lot of potatoes, like a lot. We have like an air fryer, and I will eat a good amount of potato wedges.
I think I'd weigh 300 pounds if I followed Evan's diet.
Oh, people have asked me how many calories I take in a day. I've wanted to just for fun one day actually track it. I really don't know, but I mean, I've gone away from when I was younger in my early 20s, when I went vegan, when I tried to do a lot of calorie deprivation training. I realized that my performances weren't reflecting how much training I was putting in. I was putting in hours that your top end pros put in, and that's logged on Strava. That's not me just making up hours. Like I was really training like I should have been performing at the top level, and I was not. And I think a lot of that was trying to get as lean as I possibly could, becoming very obsessed with the scale, very self-destructive. And I think this season and part of the end of last season, I really took a different approach where if my body wants calories, if I feel like I need red meat, if I feel like I need more eggs that morning, if I need bread before a workout, I just eat. And right now I'm seeing massive gains in performance that I've never even seen ballpark before. So that approach is working for the 30-year-old me. Will it work for the 40-year-old me? Probably not, because there's going to be a big chop in training time. But for right now, I'm basically just eating exactly what I feel like I need to be eating, and that can look pretty strange at times and can sometimes be upwards of 10,000 calories in a day, depending on the day.
Interesting. Cool. I have been all over the place with my diet, and for me, like in the last 2 years, I hate coming back to this all the time. It's been hard since the accident. It's been hard because I'm dealing with constant cortisol levels that I think are way too high, that it can definitely affect your body's chemistry and whatnot. So I've tried so many different things, and I'm just not seeing a lot of success, but there are things that have definitely showed progress and hope, that have given me hope, rather, that I can get back to my ways. And I'm hoping that we can get things nailed down here with my shoulders so that I can adopt some of these things. But what has worked well, when all things are, kind of clicking, is a little bit of that intermittent fasting that Matt alluded to, the time restricted stuff. And then going a little bit more plant-based is definitely something that I've dabbled with before in the past. I mean, I was vegetarian for 2 years, and in that time period, prior to moving to Washington State and then moving into Washington State and living here, it was all vegetarian. That was probably the leanest and the fastest, pretty damn close to the fastest that I've ever been. And I wasn't missing the meats. So I have a sneaking suspicion that we're told that, if you're going to be vegan, if you're going to be a vegetarian, that you're going to be, basically at a loss for the appropriate protein intake, and the amino acids are going to be incomplete. I think a lot of that comes to us by way of being programmed by industries and hearing what industries are trying to sell and how they're trying to influence, like we'll call it like the Food and Drug Administration,
the market in general,
and just making you think that you need these things and making it sound like it's not healthy for you not to get these things. I think that there's a lot to be said there in terms of what goes on. I went through it and I experienced it, that I didn't need those, and you constantly hear that you're not getting enough protein. There's a young man. He kind of reminds me a little bit of you in terms of like how he approaches things. He has a YouTube channel. He's a cycling coach. His name is Dylan Johnson. Have you guys watched any Dylan Johnson's videos?
Yeah,
I think
I've seen his stuff.
He makes great.
I think I turned you on to him, Lance, at some point in time. But the kid, he's young, but he's very well educated, and he's
much more well educated than me. Thank you for the comparison, but no, Dylan knows his stuff. Yeah,
he is, and he takes a very scientific approach, and he does all of the research, and he finds the medical journals, and he connects all of the dots and figures out how to make sense of it all. And he applies this to himself, and the kid is no slouch on the bike. I mean, kid's strong. He was a top 10 finisher at Dirty Kansas.
I think so. Yeah, he was right up there with the EF guys that day.
Yeah, he's kind of renowned on both the mountain bike and the gravel bike, and I think he gets into all kinds of like endurance racing.
He does enduro on the mountain bike. I'm pretty sure it's like his strength. Yeah.
So the kid can fly, and he started, he has this YouTube channel that I stumbled across, and he started getting into a bunch of different things. And his take was, really don't get yourself tied up with macronutrients. Don't get yourself tied up with pretty much eating in certain windows and all that stuff. He kind of just tried to make it super simple. It's like, just eat low density, high volume food. So basically a lot of fruits and vegetables. And that's where you're going to get the bulk of your calories from. And, went into the science of why you don't need to be like ingesting tons of protein, like animal-based proteins. And just kind of went through this whole process in one of his videos. And I'm sure we could probably even share the video, the one that I'm talking about in particular. But
yeah,
just eating whole foods that are plant-based, and then really just, trying to stay away from the processed stuff and getting into a lot of fruits and vegetables and unprocessed carbohydrates and legumes. And, he himself is a vegetarian, or not a vegetarian, he's a vegan, and he does really well for himself. And he coaches a lot of other athletes and cyclists and whatnot, and I think a lot of people have been turned on to that, and he's seeing good success there too. So there's something to be said, and just try maybe unplugging from TV a little bit and being programmed by what the commercials are telling you need to eat, and maybe take a different approach to finding food sources that are gonna nourish you quite a bit better. There's a lot of other stuff that we can get in here. I don't want to go too much into the weeds, but what about recovery, you guys? What do you guys, how are you guys addressing the whole recovery thing? Because a lot of what we do really taxes our body. We break ourselves down. We become fatigued. We become, like needing to be very conscious of like our cellular reproduction and recovery and all that stuff. What do you guys do to address that through nutrition?
I think from my point of view, and I think, Lance, this is probably something as you're going through getting close to being a year into veganism, probably something you've had to tweak and all that is the timing of your heavier dose of calories. I think when you're talking, so I'll just talk from, me and Matt can kind of talk from that triathlon perspective, and Lance, I'm sure you can too when you remember, is a triathlon's a little bit different through your training day in the sense that a cyclist, let's say that you're doing a big weekend Saturday ride. Let's say you're Tonk and you just went on the rack ride this weekend for just heck and try to KOM up large. Right after that ride, you're going to need your biggest dump of calories, unless you're trying really to get creative with training your fat metabolism. There is some decent research out there that shows. We all talk about our intermittent fasting. There is some benefit if you are doing low aerobic zone 2 workouts, I believe is what the study was looking at. It was not looking at workouts with intervals. Actually fasting after the workout can improve fat metabolism, your RER numbers, think of it this way, your body's capacity to burn fats at higher and higher heart rates, which makes you a better and better aerobic athlete, basically. But what you want to look at is generally you're going to be eating your biggest recovery meal right after that. In the triathlon world, let's say me and Matt have a morning swim and then we're going for a run after, you got to find that nutrition that your stomach can handle easily, which in my case is like breads, basically. Matt, did you always have like a in-between go-to workout meal?
Yeah, and it's usually simple carbs, right?
Yep,
so
very easy to process.
For that, you're almost not even thinking about you kind of want some of the opposite of what you want from the rest of the time frame. You're looking for high caloric density.
Yep.
It's not going to upset your stomach.
I will admit I do fall into this group too, and I've joked with you guys is I will use Red Bull pretty frequently now between workouts. Never when I'm just not doing anything, but you'd be surprised. I mean, there are ITU triathletes who was the draft legal racing, which is some of the fastest triathletes in the world. I know some of those guys are taking in 2 Red Bulls a day at times. It's basically their sports drink.
Huh.
Yeah. So when you're just talking about simple, I don't think there's anything simpler than like a Coca-Cola or a Red Bull. It's your body processes it almost instantly.
I think there's something to be said about taking in a Coke when you're in that bonk zone, that bonk
Yes.
land, and you need to get
Everybody
those
can talk down Coke until you need it.
Yeah, get those glycogen levels up. That's a good way to have that happen quickly, and I've seen it.
Yep.
I've probably told this story before, but we were doing the STP, Seattle to Portland ride, and it's 206 miles. And I remember being about 160 miles into it, one of the guys with us was severely bonking to the point where he was feeling faint and lightheaded and was going to pass out and didn't think he was going to be able to finish the ride. And we just so happened to be coming up to the next rest station, ran over, grabbed him a Coke. He drank that and instantly came back to life.
Saved his life.
Not only that, but he finished the rest of the ride strong. I mean, he rode out the next 40-plus miles strong.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm sure that the Snickers he had with that, another choice piece of caloric intake, shake helped as well. But I mean, just to watch how quickly that can work in that kind of a situation is pretty incredible.
And that's why I think when you're talking about diet recovery, that's when it's got to be. It gets a little bit more situational specific and person specific. You know, it's like, is a meal that Lance and Brandy would put together right now probably better than what I eat on Friday nights? Absolutely. Nutritionally, everything. Would that meal that Lance is eating be good at mile 100 of STP? Maybe not. That would be kind of a gut bomb at that point that you're not able to digest as your body's trying to shunt blood to your muscles, and it would have to basically bring all that blood back and try to digest what you just threw into your stomach.
Yeah. Getting back into the recovery component, though, what is your go-to? Like, you get off of you finish with a hard workout, and you're needing to start replenishing your glycogen levels and getting some calories in yourself so they can get into some recovery. I'm curious to know what each of you guys will typically jump to. So, Matt, how about you start us off? What would you generally go to right after a big workout?
Well, I used to do protein, like a protein shake, which I liked a lot. I haven't been doing it the past, really, it's been over a year and a half, just because the workouts haven't necessarily demanded it, and I'm not sure that it's the best thing for me at this point to be, hitting a protein shake directly after a workout. But that's a super easy way for people to get, the suggested amount of protein in quickly and easily, right? So some sort of whey protein and some fruit in a smoothie, and I would put a lot of ice in there, and man, I feel like that hits the spot. Typically, long run or something like that, you just want something cold and you're getting that protein in.
How much sugar is usually in those, Matt? Would you have like higher sugar one? Because I've seen some of those that I've used that have a really, really high sugar content.
I don't know the amount of sugar in there. I'm guessing that there is a fair amount, especially if you're adding fruit to it, right? So it's hard to know exactly what the numbers would be. But I would definitely hit those. They're like a big one of those right after a long run and sitting on the couch. So you're probably spiking your blood glucose level quite a bit. I'm not sure how bad that is for you or how good that is for you. And so it was definitely something that I did. Now I don't worry about it too much. Now I just grab some water.
If you're in a mental fog after a workout, I mean, you really do need to address your blood sugar, though, so that wouldn't be such a bad thing at that time.
Right.
What about you, Lance?
Usually after a big ride, I want to replace those glycogen stores, and I want to try to get some protein in as well. And my go-to is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on wheat bread. Yeah,
that sounds good right now.
So I usually eat one or two of those, afterwards. The peanut butter and the jelly, it restores the glycogen. There's quite a bit of protein in the peanut butter and in wheat, or seeds if I use a seeded bread or something like that. So that's usually my go-to. Occasionally, I use a Recoverite product from Hammer Nutrition. They make Hammer Nutrition makes a recovery drink that is actually vegan, so it's not whey protein, it's soy protein.
I was going to say there's actually a number of different options for vegan protein drinks and powders and things like that if that's something that you need. I think my wife has one.
I like Hammers because I like strawberry a lot more than I like chocolate. And so they have a strawberry flavored Recoverite that I'll mix up and drink along with my peanut butter sandwiches, and usually that's too much if I do those two things.
Gotcha. Evan, was it a beer and a bag of potato chips?
I'm actually really, it's funny, since I moved up to the Pacific Northwest, I really don't drink beer like at all anymore. I did like my first 6 months here. I definitely enjoyed having a beer after rides, but it's been like the last 2.5 years I really am not drinking beer, but it definitely is a bag of chips. I think my go-to is if I get off the treadmill and it was at least 4 or 5 hours of training, I am for sure grabbing a Tostitos bag with a hint of lime and some dip that we have in the fridge while I'm making dinner.
It's so good.
Oh, Cassie jokes it's my pre-dinner dinner. So it's like, as I'm making dinner, I have to eat something or I'm going to pass out while making dinner. So it's just got to be eating the chips, and it's amazing. It's like a switch. I think this is why I really and I've heard some stuff from Dylan, the kid we were referencing earlier, but I would love. I don't know how you could research this, but I really do think when you build a certain habit into your recovery schedule, whether that's I have Swedish fish after it or whatever. I've heard some weird ones out there. I really do think there's a trigger mentally that kind of wakes that neuroactivity back up. You get out of that fog. Your body goes out of that catabolic stage and starts accepting that that glycogen. Or starts increasing your glycogen stores again. I really think a lot of that stuff is crucial, because if you have a certain food that you go to that makes you happy after beautiful or after brutal training days, that I think is just as important as what the actual food is. Now, of course, if you're taking in like, I don't know, I'm sure there's a food we could come up with where that would be absolutely terrible. If you eat like chocolate bunnies every single day after training, there are better options, I'm sure.
Probably the chips with a hint of lime to it would be probably the worst thing.
Now, if I took away the hint, if I took away the hint of lime, do you think it would be better if I just went with the scoops? Would the scoops be better?
Then it'd be 100% recovered immediately.
Multi-grain scoops, 100% better than hint of lime Tostitos. But
you guys like oatmeal? You guys eat a lot of oatmeal?
Not really anymore.
No?
I don't, but I should.
I used
it's
to.
a good breakfast option.
I eat it every morning before a big ride. If I'm having a big day, I'll have like 2 scoops of oatmeal covered in seeds and with, some like agave on it or brown sugar.
Are you like most vegans, Lance? Do you have like seeds from all the plants? Like just your entire pantry is just like a different seed?
I do have lots of seed options in my house because it's a great protein source for vegans.
Hemp, chia. Those are the only 2 I know.
Yeah.
What else is there out there?
All of that.
Yeah, oatmeal is my go-to. Pre-ride, big rides, it's definitely going to be in there.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a really big ride, I might actually have like a piece of like whole grain toast, and I'll get a little bit, put some avocado on there as well.
Do you throw in a banana with your oatmeal ever? You like smash a banana in there?
I'll cut up a banana and I'll toss that in there. Sometimes I'll throw some nuts and definitely every single time there's berries in there of varying degrees. It's usually blueberries, and then I'll accent it with some raspberries and blackberries as well, just to kind of add a little bit more.
And Jake's got a thing of nuts right in his center island table too. Is that just like constantly getting refilled?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you go to Costco and they've got a couple different bags of nuts that you can get there, and it's somewhere between I don't know, like $8 and $10 for a pretty good sized bag.
That's good.
Every week we buy 2, maybe 3 bags, and I've got this massive
each
container. Yeah, and we do, and everybody snacks on them, and it's healthy stuff.
Oh yeah,
too, so
because you guys got like your walnuts, your almonds, your berries in there.
Oh yeah. And sometimes there's one particular one that's got some dark chocolate, which is good for you too for performance reasons, and it adds a little bit of sweetness to it. And you grab a handful of those and you keep going. Now you got to be careful though, because here's another quick question, and this kind of like clues into this. How much do you guys get into calorie counting, or do you calorie count at all?
Does anybody calorie count here?
Shaking his head no.
I don't anymore, but when I'm really trying to cut some weight, I watch pretty closely. I'll use the MyFitnessPal app or something to track kind of how many calories. But once you do that for 3 months or 6 months, you learn very quickly and kind of remember your core foods, what you eat and how many calories there are. So after a while, you don't have to do it anymore.
I think it really helps guide people in the right direction in terms of learning about caloric density of foods. And if you really get into it and you abide by like counting those calories. Now, I personally don't do it either, unless I'm, like Lance said, kind of out in the deep woods in terms of like needing to come back into the real world of like losing a bunch of weight. I don't calorie count, but it's a good way to learn about like really what the better food choices are. Because if you want to just fill your stomach up and you're having those mechanical pains, and you know that you shouldn't be like tossing down a full whatever fill in the blank that's got a ton of calories, and you can instead maybe have like a nice big salad or a big thing of like broccoli, accented with a couple different things that taste good. It fills you up and you're fine.
Yep.
You definitely want to learn about making the good choices so that you're not overeating, and that's something that can be a problem.
And definitely in the weeks leading into big races, kind of like what Lance was referencing when he did going into training camp. Lance, I think that's the one time when if you're somebody listening to this podcast who really cares about performance, like really cares. If you're somebody who just wants to do races or wants to race, I do think there's a little bit of danger with getting really into your watts per kilo, getting into your, Matt remembers these days, getting into your leanest running form. I think there's a little bit of danger there. But if you are really focused on performance, like you've got to look at what you're taking in calorie wise the 2 weeks before a race.
Yeah. So going back to my point was like we have that bowl that sits on our island that's got all the nuts in there, and it's very easy to walk by and grab a handful and toss them down.
Lose track of handfuls.
Yeah, if you lose track of the handfuls or go back at the end of the day and look at how many calories you actually put down, that can actually start to add up pretty quickly. And with what everybody's going through right now, being stuck at home, everybody's a little bit stressed out or you're bored, and those are the two things that generally cause people to kind of overeat, is like being stressed or bored. I mean, you'll do that just to kind of pass time, or if you're stress eating, all of a sudden you put on a few extra pounds. Well, maybe don't have that always sitting out, or making sure that you portion it out. So figure out what the portions are and then have those sitting out so that you're not thinking that you're having one and you actually had 6, and
nuts are pretty dense calorically too.
Yeah. I think a serving.
Cashews are my favorite, and that's like, I think you're most dense.
Yeah. I know that like this, it's a coastal berry mix or something like that they have at Costco, which everybody that shops at Costco probably knows what I'm talking about. I believe a serving of that is a half cup, and it's 160 calories, and that half cup is easy to toss down. So it's really easy to overeat that stuff. When
we need to get that for the podcast here. I kind of miss that, guys. Do you miss it? I would for sure, like every single time I went to Jake's house, it was like straight for the nut berry mix every time.
Poor Jake.
I have
probably
partaken.
Yes, I know. It was always me and
have.
Lance would be like, "Hi, Jake, how you doing?" Anyway, I'm gonna go say hi to Zeke and grab some nuts.
Is that code for grabbing some nuts? Right on. So again, calorie counting. You guys sometimes yes, most of the time no.
Only in race prep for me. That's
gotcha.
it.
And same for you, Lance. Pretty much just when you're.
And pretty much just it's just race prep. Otherwise, I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I'm like, certainly the times when I was seriously worried about losing weight, then I did it every single day, every single meal.
Yeah, it's effective. It's just not sustainable.
How was your mental health during that, Lance? Not to get too personal, but how was that when you were really into counting?
When I was definitely focused on trying to lose weight, because I felt terrible about myself and about how I felt, and so it was important for me to kind of focus on that.
How many times, and I've done this before, but how many times did you jump on the bike or the trainer and knock out a quick hour session just so you can put an extra 800 calories in the bank so that you can go back and have something at the end of the night?
Yep.
Yeah.
That happens.
For sure.
Yeah. And Matt, do you do any calorie counting? Has that ever been something you've subscribed to?
No,
not your cup.
Pretty well. I mean, yeah.
Matt back in his day was running like 120 miles a week, so he was tiny and running 120 miles a week. I think the only calorie counting you probably needed to be doing, Matt, was making sure you were eating enough to survive.
Yeah. So at that point when you're doing that much exercise, you just eat whatever you want.
Gotcha.
And it burns fast and furious. And and now at this point I should probably count calories and stuff like that. But I honestly feel like I can barely keep my kids fed, and so it's kind of like, eat when you can. You're not counting calories. You're just, trying to get some calories in at some point. So
gotcha. You're just eating what Dash doesn't eat for breakfast, basically.
Yeah. This milk is going in the mason jar. Why do you guys pour so much milk?
These Cheerios are about 30 minutes old here. That's
So bringing this thing back around, there's a bunch of different diet plans that you can go. There's something every day of the week for every week of the year. You could try a different.
Is paleo gone? Paleo was big for a while. What happened to paleo?
It still kind of circles back,
but
I think a lot of people are starting to gravitate away from eating like the animal products. I think that they're starting to show some good consistent like data from that, and the athletes are learning that you can still perform and actually see performance enhancement. You're still recovering, if not recovering even faster. Your body weight's staying managed and checked. So there's a lot of benefits there, but there's still quite a few people. I know a lot of people that have switched over to being vegetarian. It's probably those people that just have a hard time giving up the dairy stuff. The cheese is probably the biggest one.
I blame pizza for people going vegetarian. I just point towards pizza. That's got to be the reason.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if I could ever be a vegan, just because I like fish too much. So maybe like not a pescatarian, but
yeah,
I don't know
pescatarian.
Well, what would be a vegan
Mediterranean diet?
vegan, but you still eat fish, would that be pescatarian? Because pescatarians are still eating cheeses and whatnot.
I think so.
Right?
I think pescatarian. I could be completely wrong here. I think pescatarian is just describing a Mediterranean diet, basically.
It's vegetarianism with the addition of fish.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the Mediterranean diet. I mean, there's all of these different things. Are there any other diets out there that you guys think are functional for people to look into? And I know that Evan kind of talked about kind of eat right for your body type or what your chemistry is, and kind of dabbling with things.
Genetics goes into that too. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there anything else that kind of intrigues you guys that you think you might want to try someday, or that you would recommend to people to check out or do some more research on? No?
The McDonald's diet, anybody?
Hey.
I will say, veganism and being plant-based is certainly not for everybody. Some people's bodies just don't respond to it very well, and I'm fully aware of that. That's why I don't get on my high horse about it and spew about it all the time like some do, because for some it just doesn't work very well. There's been a lot of elite athletes that I know that have tried it and it just didn't quite work for them. I don't know if it didn't work for them because they weren't trying to get enough protein in their diets through, nuts and beans and quinoa and nut butters and things like that. But some people just don't respond to it very well. So,
yeah, I think for some people, I think for some people, Lance, too, it's just, I'll just speak to my own experience. If you're not well planned with it, you will end up not taking in enough calories. I think because generally a vegan diet's going to be lower calorie. That's not always true. You can still be eating chips and all of that stuff, but it's harder to get in those higher calorie protein sources. You can do it. You just got to plan it out.
Yeah.
And I think if you're not careful with that, you'll end up in some calorie deficits and issues there.
What about just taking a moderation approach? I mean, like maybe not completely signing off and writing off all animal-based proteins, but kind of like my household, we have a meat probably once a week, and that could be fish, it could be chicken. We really don't touch too much red meat anymore. If I had my ruthers, we probably wouldn't eat any more poultry, but because I'm just I crave fish and I need to have fish in my diet. But and at the same time, just like in moderation with everything, like you could be a little bit of vegan, you could be a little bit of vegetarian, you could be a little bit of pescatarian, and just managing everything and keeping in mind that you're paying attention to keeping your food whole and keeping it unprocessed and eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and really just trying to build something that's going to work well for you. I mean, I think that's kind of my best approach for me, and that's kind of what I try and recommend to people as well, is like, don't go full bore just into one particular thing. Like, don't be just a vegan, don't be just a vegetarian, don't be just a
don't
paleo
be Lance
guy
over here. Yeah.
Or
don't just have a mustache.
Keto.
Have a little bit of chin stubble too. Don't just go full mustache and handlebars, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna scare people.
Yeah. Just pay attention where you're getting your nutrition from, keeping it whole, and not getting all crazy with the macronutrients, and making sure that you're all fat or you're all carb or you're all protein. Yeah. Just whatever your body needs.
That's been my crazy. So obviously, since YouTube is blowing up right now because all the YouTubers are home and everybody's watching the YouTubers now, the amount of so most of me and Cassie's YouTube is just athletes, and we'll follow athletes and watch their videos. And the amount of them now that are sharing like day in my life diet, which is great to some extent. Here's the problem with that is if you have 2 million subscribers or whatever, you got 2 million people watching that video. These guys are putting up their macros on there as if it's some equation that they've figured out. None of them have nutrition degrees. No. None of them have really any reason or any right or reason to be giving explicit advice to 2 million followers on there.
And that's what they're showing, but what's really going on behind the scenes? I mean, when you pull back the curtain and take a look, I mean, all right, how many Oreos did you sneak in today?
I've seen a couple of those videos that are honest, which I like, because they'll be like what I actually ate today. Yeah. But it is funny because you'll watch the other like fitness model ones, and they're you watch that, they're like, there's no way. 0% chance that is what that person actually ate in that day.
Sure. And
you have maybe some people that aren't as secure with their lives as the four of us are here, and you got some 16-year-olds going through stressful times right now, and they're watching that thinking, oh man, I got to make sure I get in 23% protein and 50% carbohydrates and this percent fat every single day.
Yep.
And that's, I don't know. I just think people need to be a little bit more careful with the quote unquote advice that they give nutritionally.
Yeah. I agree. What about you, Lance? You got anything else to add to this? Any
I think
takeaways?
the best response from a follower of mine I've gotten this last week, I took a KOM from a teammate of mine.
This was funny.
Mike Reddig. I was on my gravel bike on a gravel trail, and it apparently had the KOM, and I ended up taking it. And he responded. He responded on my ride. He said, "Steal one of my KOMs, will you? Whatever. At least I get to eat meat."
Yeah. This is why Lance didn't share that he wanted to go vegan. He was just afraid that everybody was going to be giving him.
I don't care. You guys can give me as grief as you want. How can you take somebody seriously with this mustache on their face? I cannot be taken seriously with this on my face.
Your performance games in the last year are making me take you very seriously. So if you were to start eating only eggs, I would probably be like, hey, there may be something to that.
Lance, you've taken that stash to a whole new level this past week. You're now using product in that, correct?
Yes.
How was that not part of your back pedal?
Wait a minute. Is it vegan product? How many animals died?
Oh, thank you, Matt. Yeah, thank you.
It actually is not vegan friendly because it is wax. It is beeswax. And
the bee is a slave.
Vegans don't use any animal products, including honey and beeswax.
How many bees had to die?
How many bees had to die to make this
for that handlebar to look awesome? We're losing followers left and right here right now, guys.
Matt, if you'd had to describe the current state of Lance's mustacheness, how would you describe that to our listeners that can't see?
Paint a picture, Matt. Please paint a picture for us.
Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah,
okay, let's go.
Dun 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 dun. That's circus. That's circus talk. This mustache, and that is exactly the way to describe it.
Lance was talking about. He was talking about opening up a circus before all this COVID stuff came down. Apparently, the circus industry is not the best one to get into at the moment.
Personal ringleader.
When my daughter walked in the house the other day, she's like, "Dad, you've gone full carny."
Oh my God!
Well, he definitely fits in downtown Portland now. But
he does. Yeah. Either you're running a circus or you're moving to downtown Portland, one or the other.
So for my listeners, the hair is long enough that I can actually style it. It is actually parted in the middle and swept up beyond the corners of my mouth like a ridiculous carny or ringleader. And I'm keeping it.
The old Raleigh fingers. Look, who else had that? Was it Goose Gossage, another old baseball player?
Yeah. Yes.
Very cool. Well, I guess the closing remarks here. We're not nutritionists.
Yeah,
we're just speaking based on our personal experiences. Yeah, and I'm sure that things will change in the years to come. But on the whole, eat whole, unprocessed foods. I think that's going to be your best bet, and make sure that you're getting in plenty of antioxidants and things that are going to help out with cellular recovery. Don't overeat. Try and stay away from the standard American diet. Evan Price.
Yes.
And
do not listen to a single word that I say on here nutritionally.
Yeah. Check out that that documentary that we talked about. I think that would probably be something that might give you some good direction. Like Lance said, the Game Changers did have some stuff that they came back and they kind of questioned. And who was it? Joe Rogan that tore that apart?
Rogan did show.
Actually, Joe Rogan brought in a nutritionist, and they spent about 3 hours completely tearing apart the documentary. And then a week later, they brought on the executive producer and the guy who directed the Game Changers, and he refuted everything that the nutritionist said the week before, and they actually had an on-air debate about it.
Really?
That Joe Rogan ended up removing the debunking podcast from his list because the guy backed his data up so well. So take that for whatever grain of salt you want to take it with. But
interesting.
Joe's good radio, man. God, he's good radio. I'm surprised there wasn't a fist fight during that.
So that's Game Changers. Also check out Dylan Johnson on YouTube. He's he's doing good stuff.
He is.
I don't know. Maybe we should reach out to him. I always say
that would be cool actually to bring him on.
Not,
I would love to go back and forth with him. That'd be fun.
I don't think he's that big yet to where he would turn us
Yeah.
down. But
No,
He's
he's
like
got
40,000-50,000 followers. I bet he would come on the podcast.
yeah, for
he's
sure.
got 4,000 Strava followers because I just followed him on Strava. So there.
And just do some research, and if there's something out there working for you, we would like to hear it, because I think that this is something that we can touch on periodically. There's a lot to be learned here, and we just kind of like touched on the surface for a lot of things, because you can get really into the weeds in a lot of this, and there's a lot of science that you can bring in and talk about, like the reasons why we eat the certain foods that we eat. So let us know, though. Let us know what's working well for you. Let us know things that you've had success with, and some of the things that you think are kind of BS. There's a lot of stuff out there that I think that people can share with us. So.
Yep.
Anything
That would
else?
be very cool.
Anything else, guys? Anything else to add? Speak now.
Nope.
Forever hold your peace. Okay. One last thing before we shut this mother down. Evan, what's up?
This week, Jake and I, well, it was actually over the weekend, Jake and I released our swim and cycling videos through the Dialed Endurance Lab. They are in good spirit and fun and meant to basically be a kind of specific look at the strength training for both sports. Everything that I do as a physical therapist is probably way overspecified, but it's basically looking at, as a swimmer, if you're doing a lot of band exercises, here's a good 45-minute just base band exercise progression for you to start with. We're going to be putting out more in the future as well, linking it to the YouTube channel. Go onto our Facebooks or the Instagrams or the website to find the link. Jake is the tech man who links up everything perfectly, but we have a cycling and a swimming one. We're going to have some running stuff coming up here soon too, so stay tuned.
Cool. Matt LeGrand, one last thing, bud.
I watched your guys' YouTube video, and I thought it was fantastic. Good work.
I watched it as well. I thought it was great. Yep.
Evan, can I just say you're good on camera, man?
That swim cap got hot. Oh my gosh. I thought for sure I was going to be able to hold that thing the entire time. Oh, that got warm.
Yeah. Oh, that first video, though, Matt's talked about this.
Jake had to put so much work into
Well, Matt's talked about this because he's like, oh, well, the videos that I made way back in day, like, there's certain things that embarrass me. And I'm like, no way, they're awesome, But when you're the one that's kind of responsible for that, all of the flaws. There was a major flaw with the first one, and it was 100% my fault. I plugged in, like, we have a little lav mic for Evan. It's hooked up to this little wireless thing. That
it was very pro.
Yeah. It's a great system when you plug it into the right port. I wasn't paying attention, and I plugged it into the headphone jack and not the mic jack, and I didn't realize it until after it. And I'm like, I can't make Evan do that whole thing over again. That was like 45 minutes.
He almost died during that. Yeah.
And so I'm trying to fix things in the back and trying to fix things in the audio, and I'm like, this just isn't sounding good at all. So I don't know. That's the turd in the punch bowl so far. So hopefully that's not too bad.
The future videos will get better and better.
It's there. It's just a giant echoey chamber, and you can hear Evan, but they get better as we go forward. So I promise.
I noticed the audio was a little off when I first started watching it, but then I watched the video a second time, like later in the day, and I really didn't notice the audio that much. So I think it's fine. I think you and I would notice, but it's not like a real problem.
I put a music bed on the bottom of it too, which I wasn't going to do originally, and I'm like, oh, that
the
actually helps.
Was cool too.
Yeah, the music bed helped out with the bad audio, kind of distracted you a little bit. I'm like, I wasn't going to do that in the beginning, but I think maybe that'll be something that'll be good that comes out of this little silver link. We'll put a music bed underneath all of the videos. Yeah, that kind of helps it move along a little bit. So
I think it's awesome, and I mean that was I'm so thankful to have Jake helping with that, and in the future, once we're all able to come back together, I'd love to do some stuff with Matt again.
Absolutely,
and I think I can't contribute much in the terms of editing and everything, but I love helping with any content, which is just so much fun. So
totally, yeah. There's gonna be a lot of fun stuff coming up in the future for sure. So I'm excited about that. I'm sure I'll post a video this week. I don't know what it's gonna be, but if you haven't seen the video from last week, I think I did 2 videos last week. I don't remember exactly, but the last one that I posted was the photo competition. So that's definitely worth a watch, especially because I'm not in it that much. You get to see actual cool people.
It's one of my favorite videos of you so far, Matt, just because I'm actually in it. So I was excited.
Yeah, honestly, your photo is one of my favorites because
that was 100% Cassie. Yeah.
Trainer. And when I came up with the competition, that's in my mind. I was like, I'm going to get to see a whole bunch of people training on Strava, like Pain Cave. Like literally what I was thinking of was like, over the shoulder on the trainer with Zwift in the background. Like that's the kind of shot that came to mind when I was thinking about the competition. And I got a lot of those photos, and I had a whole bunch of photos submitted. But I kind of liked the ones that were kind of our group, which was, I think Lance would made it on there. Jake, did you? I don't know if you posted something.
You know what? I didn't, and I had all
doesn't matter.
I had all
You're
intentions
gonna hold
of
it up your
doing
head.
it. Yeah, and I just didn't get around to doing it. I don't know, got sidetracked too many times. You guys have
Well,
seen
you lost out on these stickers.
We're gonna have to.
It's like this since we moved into this new facility. What was it, like 3 or 4 days before the whole COVID shutdown?
It was. I thought it was like the day of. Honestly, it was.
It's almost a. There's a little bit of a blessing there because there's so many things that needed to get done here, and not being super busy has allowed us to do that. But at the same time, I feel like that dog from Up. I heard my wife use this analogy as well. But you know the dog from the movie Up, Squirrel.
Yes.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
That's been me like the last couple of weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get back into my routine. My routine has really always helped me stay on track with things, and taking all my notes and making sure that I'm staying on track with things, and having certain times of the day. And right now, I feel like it's just everywhere. It's like spit on a griddle, and that squirrel all over the place. And I
feel the same way.
Yeah.
I usually am like, I can get a video or two out. I feel like I can't do anything. Everyone's talking about how bored they are during quarantine, and I'm like, I can't get anything done.
Yeah. So. Life is chaotic right now, so.
It is. We need some normalcy back, but yeah.
Lance, one last thing, bud.
My recommendation would just be to stay safe and stay active and stay positive. And if you ride outside, ride alone. That's all I'd say.
Ride alone. Yep. Mm-hmm. My one last thing is going to be two last things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. First thing is learn something new. This is a great time to learn something new. Like, expand your horizons. We've all got little things that we've always wanted to learn. Use this time to do that now. I mean, because everybody, even though, like I just said, spit on a griddle and jumping all over squirrel, all that stuff right now, there's still moments of time where I can learn some new tricks, and I'm trying to do that. And I'm trying different things with photography and teaching myself some more stuff, and kind of widening the scope of the things that I can do with the camera. So I'm trying to have fun with that. The other thing, just go have fun on your bike. Just go outside, ride your bike. And right now, we don't have races to prepare for. We don't have like a massive event that we're training for. Just go out there and enjoy it, and stop and smell the roses. We've talked about this before in the past. Go out there and take a camera. Go take a sack lunch and go sit on a rock somewhere and just get outside. And even if it's by yourself, that's fine. Go take a significant other or your housemate or somebody like that. Take them out there. I took my son on a ride. I had fun. That was an 1.5-hour ride, and I had a blast. And I wasn't training. I wasn't going that hard. I think my heart rate went over 100 beats per minute like once. It was pretty simple, but it was fun with my son, and we had a good time. And like he all week long, he's like, that ride was so fun. Can we do that again next week? I'm like, absolutely. So
he's building good passion for cycling here during this, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, he loves it. So have some fun. All right, guys. Anything else to close this thing out?
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Thanks for being on.
Miss you guys.
That's Dash, man. That's classic.
Yes.
Every time I look over, it makes me snicker.
At least there's something going right.
All right. Again, if you guys want to become a Patreon, go to our Facebook page and you will see the Patreon account there. I got to figure out a better way to kind of put that out there for everybody to find. An easy way to put it out there. But for all intents and purposes, go to Dial Podcast on Facebook and you will see a link to that. And if you want to become a Patreon, that would be fantastic. And there's some perks that come along with that. And you can be one of the Patrons that helps us push this thing further into the stratosphere of podcasting. Right? Good times.
Be as big as Joe Rogan one day. Whoa.
And thank you to those that have subscribed, again, to the Chris's, Hitchcock, and Strat that have recently joined us. We will be back next week with another one of these things, unless the world comes to an end, right?
As long as as long as it's still around.
We appreciate you listening. Have a good week. Bye for now.